Hey there, my fellow author. I'm Sarah Elizabeth Sawyer, an old soul kind of writer living my dream as a full-time author and authorpreneur. But I didn't start out living a confident, creative lifestyle. I struggled with the fears and the mental and emotional barriers that so often plague writers at all stages of their author career. But the truth is that with the right knowledge, tools, and training, you can overcome those barriers. I'm here to teach you how I've developed a lifestyle that's allowed me to publish 19 books and counting. Each week, as you tune into the Confident Fiction Author podcast, you'll get clarity on the steps you need to take to advance your writing career. Whether it's developing your ideal writing routine, tackling new skills like dictating your fiction, or overcoming the obstacles life throws your way, this podcast will help you live a more confident, creative lifestyle. Let's get started. Well, hey there, my fellow author, and welcome to this episode of the Confident Fiction Author podcast. I'm your host, Sarah Elizabeth Sawyer, and today we are going to be talking about something that sits underneath every other topic I've ever covered here, and that is how to build a sustainable fiction author career. Not a productive month, not one finished manuscript. I'm talking about a writing life you can sustain for years, even decades, for as long as the stories keep coming to you. Because maybe you felt this already. You love writing, but your wrists ache after a long session. Your neck and your shoulders just carry that knot that never quite lets go. And you finish a draft, but you feel so drained, you don't even want to look at the next one. Or maybe your body is fine, but your calendar isn't. And you keep asking yourself, where in this packed life am I supposed to find the hours to write all the books in my head? So if you have ever looked down the road at the career you want and wondered, can I actually keep this up? Then this episode is for you. I'm going to share the strategy that changed my answer to that question from I hope so to yes for life. Let's get into it. Let me take you back to where this started for me. In my early 20s, I hit burnout. Real burnout, the kind where I essentially erased the whiteboard of my life and stood there staring at the blank surface, wondering what to write on it. Several months into that season, I walked into a bookstore and picked up a copy of a writing magazine, and standing right there in the aisle, and in that moment, I felt God tell me that this was what I was to do with my life. You are to be a writer. Now, I had written my first story when I was 5 years old, so in one sense, this calling was confirmation of something that had been in me all along. But a calling and a career to me are two different things. Like a calling is the why, and the career is the how. And one of my first quests as a serious fiction writer was figuring out the how to improve my writing speed and my consistency so that I could build a sustainable career in an industry that never stops changing. Is that a question you've asked yourself? Like, how do I write enough, consistently enough to build the career I actually want? I try to answer it with tools. I started out writing by hand like most of us authors do, and I just found that handwriting was so exhausting, I rarely finished a story. Now, as a teenager, I shifted to typing on an old Canon typewriter, one of the electric typewriters, and then I moved on from there as technology evolved to a desktop computer, and then a laptop, and then a little device that some of you may remember fondly, and that was the Neo by AlphaSmart. I had a Neo 2. It was a battery-powered, I just called it my little typing machine. It had a tiny screen and no internet connection to distract me. So as I progressed through technology, like every upgrade helped a little, but none of them got me to the speed and the consistency I knew I needed. But here's what I want you to catch, because it took me years to see this. Speed and consistency are only two legs of the stool. The third leg is your health, your hands, your back, your eyes, your energy. You can be fast and consistent at typing for a season or handwriting while your body is really paying the bill. And then the bill comes due eventually. And I knew that without my health, I would not have a long-term career no matter how fast I could type. Sustainability means all three: having enough words, producing them consistently by a body and a mind that can keep doing it for decades. So I want you to hold on to that definition because everything else I'm going to talk about hangs on that. Okay, I want to be honest with you about the failure part because I suspect some of you are living in it right now. Around that time that I was growing through technology and trying to find how to increase my writing speed, I kept hearing about authors who were dictating their fiction using a software called dictation. They were writing thousands of words in a fraction of the time it took them to type. They were publishing at a pace I could just hardly believe, and I wanted that. But the moment dictation really clicked for me was when I heard about an author who went for walks while speaking his story. Just walked out the front door and wrote his book by voice while his feet did the miles. So authors were racking up huge word counts and getting healthier while they did it. That was the first time I had seen all three legs of the stool in one picture, and that was the kind of sustainability I wanted. In 2013, when I got my first smartphone, I downloaded the trial version of Dragon Anywhere, and I spoke a few random words of fiction into it. I was so sure about this that I announced my new venture on Facebook, and my exact words were, "This could be epic." And it was. It was an epic failure. I could not get the words of fiction to flow out of my mouth the way they flowed out of my fingertips. Everything just came out stiff and scrambled, or it just didn't come out at all. And this is the part that did the real damage. Society teaches us that we are either gifted at something or we are not. We can either paint gorgeous landscapes or you can't. You can either write fiction or you can't. And standing there with my phone in hand and nothing worth keeping on the screen, I decided that I was simply not wired to dictate fiction. I told myself my brain just doesn't work that way. And I felt a little crushed because I truly believed that dictation was the key to a sustainable fiction writing career. But I quietly set aside my big public announcement and went back to the keyboard. But I couldn't fully let it go, and I want you to understand why. The reason I wanted dictation was not about, just a gadget or a writing hack. It was about my writing career. And if dictation was the path to a sustainable author career, then giving up on it felt like giving up on a piece of that future. So the idea kept sitting there in the corner of my writing life, just patiently waiting for me to come back. And over the next 7 years, I did. And finally, in early 2020, I got serious. I didn't have a guide or a coach. I asked, other authors what they were doing. I was listening to podcasts about authors who were dictating. And then mostly I just started practicing, and I practiced and practiced exactly the way I practiced typing when I was first learning to type. Nobody expects you to be fluent at typing on day one. We drill it. We do the reps. And for some reason, we forget all of that the moment the tool is our voice. And then one day it happened. I was headed into the kitchen to wash dishes, and as soon as I crossed the threshold, a scene came to me, like the whole thing. It just downloaded into my brain, had a perfect beginning, middle, ending, dialogue, like the whole thing. The problem was I needed to do those dishes because I had to head out for an appointment in about 20 minutes. And so, that sinking feeling in your gut when you have the perfect scene come to you and you have no way to capture it? That's where I was in that moment. But then I thought, why not? Why not give this a try? So I plugged in my earbuds, started my recording app, and started doing the dishes while I spoke that scene. I finished, headed out the door, came back, had the app transcribe that recording, and I found I had written nearly 1,500 words of fiction. And that was my true aha moment, because That's when I figured out the key to dictating fiction was never an expensive tool or somebody's exact process. The secret was training my brain to speak story any place, at any time, and with what I already had. I got so excited that I decided to write my entire next novel by dictation. And I typed the end on that book, except I didn't type it. I spoke it on a day that I was out of town. I had just gotten done with a long drive, and I decided to take a walk. And so that final scene happened there in the open air while I was out taking that walk. And I would not have written the end in that place, in that time, without dictation. Today, I have dictated 14 books and counting. My writing speed has doubled, and I've been healthier while doing it. I dictate while walking, while lying down. I rarely, if ever, dictate fiction at my desk at all. So dictation has truly freed me. And, 15 years after I picked up that copy of that writing magazine, it was actually Writer's Digest, in that bookstore, I was featured in Writer's Digest as an indie author. So it was a real full circle moment for me and confirmation about my calling and my quest to build a sustainable fiction writing career. And I'm telling you all of this to just let you know that if you have tried dictation in the past and failed, it is not your fault. And it is not proof that your brain just doesn't work that way. It's proof that nobody has shown you how to make dictation work with your writing brain. I tried and failed for 7 years. And that gap between my failure and my breakthrough was never about talent or how my brain was wired. It was about training. So let me give you the 3 keys I wish someone had handed me in 2013. The first key is dictation is a career strategy, not a writing trick. If you only take away one thing from our time together today, I hope it is that. Now, you might be thinking, Sarah, writing fast isn't important to me. I write slowly on purpose. Why should I care about dictation? I have heard that from many authors, and it's fair because dictation gets marketed almost entirely as a speed hack and double or triple your writing speed. But remember our definition. Sustainability is 3 legs: words, consistency, and health. And dictation covers all 3 of those. Let's start with health, because for many authors, this is not a nice to have. It is the only way forward. Typing thousands of words a day takes a toll, especially on your wrist, your fingers, your neck, your shoulders. Repetitive injuries are an occupational hazard for our work as writers. We have carpal tunnel syndrome, tendinitis, that deep upper back tension that follows you to bed. Add the posture cost of hours hunched over a laptop and the eye strain of staring at a screen all day, the dry eyes, the blurred visions, the headaches. I know of an author who spent thousands of dollars on chiropractic work after wrecking her back from sitting and typing her stories. Thousands of dollars for the privilege of writing in pain. I want you to remember this. When writing hurts your body, you are on borrowed time. Dictation hands the work of writing your stories to your voice and it gives your body back its options. You can stand, you can walk, you can lie down with a headset on. You can close your eyes and give them a rest while the words keep coming. Your hands and wrists get a break, your spine. You are safeguarding your body that has to carry you through every book you'll ever write, not just the next deadline. And it's not only about the body. Dictation is often less mentally exhausting for me than typing. You can create more in less time, which preserves that creative energy for plotting and editing and all the rest of your author life. And you can stop associating writing with being wrung out. And when you dictate while moving, you get a bonus. Movement stimulates creativity and lifts your mood. Authors who dictate on walks report fewer creative blocks and a sense of momentum and freedom. I am one of those authors. Speaking of blocks, this is one of dictation's superpowers. Typing tends to trigger the perfectionist part of the brain, the part that judges and fixes and deletes as you go. Dictation keeps you moving forward, so you are far less likely to stop and second guess every sentence. When you're blocked, even a small win matters. And 250 words spoken in 5 minutes is a win. And for writers whose keyboard has become soaked in stress and frustration, dictation offers a fresh way to touch the story that doesn't carry that baggage. And then there's time. Dictation fits into the pockets of your life that typing never could. I physically could not have typed that first scene that I dictated. I couldn't have typed it while, one, I didn't have time, and then two, my hands were in soapy dishwater. And I love stories from my stay-at-home moms who share that they're able to get their stories written while watching their kids play in the yard or while their kids are doing chores and just spending that time with their family while still getting their words of fiction written. And yes, on top of all of this, there is speed. I went from an average of 1,500 words an hour of typing. I could hit up to 2,000 words typing my fiction. That was my top speed. With dictating, I average 3,000 words per hour, and that's not speaking fast. That's speaking slower than what I am right now. And I have hit up to 4,000 words an hour with dictation. Recapping that first key: health, unblocked creativity, found time, and speed as the bonus rather than the whole point. That is what a career strategy looks like. Here's the second key, and for many of you, it's the real gatekeeper. You have to overcome perfectionism and the fear of messy drafts. If you're used to sculpting sentences as you type, dictation can feel out of control and sloppy even. Like words pour out imperfect and you can't tidy them up mid-flow the way your fingers have learned to do. So let me reframe what dictation is actually for. Dictation is a drafting tool. It is for shoveling the sand into the sandbox so you can build castles later. One of my friends, Gabriela Pereira of DIY MFA, she just said it so beautifully. The whole point of dictation is to get the raw material down. Dictation cranks out the messy first draft, what she calls draft zero, and then at the computer, you can clean up what you have. It's not supposed to be perfect. It's just supposed to be. The whole point of a messy first draft is to exist. Every other refinement happens in revision. And I just want to emphasize this by going back to the old saying, you can't edit a blank page. And I want you to remember that messy equals momentum, and momentum equals finished novels. When I give myself permission to be messy in the first draft, I actually finish my books. The books I never finished were the ones that I tried to be perfect when I wrote them, or I just ran out of gas before I got anywhere near the end. And honestly, it's not just the draft that gets to be messy. Learning the skill of dictation gets to be messy too. One of my other authors, Casey, she was playing around with dictation one afternoon and wrote a 1,500-word article in under 15 minutes. And she said that it felt like she finally had permission to just try and let the learning experience be messy. And that is so important when you are learning how to dictate. Let the learning experience itself be messy. And for what it's worth, just know that cleanup time does shrink as you train your brain to dictate your fiction. When I started out, I spent about as much time cleaning up as I did actually writing, actually dictating. And now it's more about 90-10. Like I spend 90% of my time writing by dictation and then only about 10% cleaning it up. So that aspect of the mess is just a part of the training process. And it will get better as you go along. The third key, you can get started without the tech overwhelm because you already own everything you need to dictate your stories. Maybe you've heard some version of, I tried Dragon, couldn't do it, or the tech is just too frustrating. One bad tech experience can color your whole view of dictation. And for years, expensive software and complicated software really was the only route you had unless you had a private secretary or you were able to record your words and send them off to a human transcriptionist. That world is gone. I have never used Dragon or any expensive pathway to dictation, other than that trial version on my phone back in 2013, 14 books, and most of those I dictated using the built-in function on my phone. In case you've never used this, on your smartphone, there's a little microphone on your keyboard. And if you want to do it on your computer, you can do it on your Mac. There's a mic key, or on Windows, you can do the Windows key plus H. You can test it. Any of those things will activate your built-in speech-to-text or dictate function on your phone or your computer. So when you finish this episode, just go test it out. Just open a note, tap the mic, and speak a sentence. And if words appear on the screen, congratulations, your dictation setup is complete enough to begin. But Sarah, I'm not tech savvy enough to figure this out. Y'all, I've had authors in their 80s who have come into my trainings. Like one of my elder authors, she dictates on her smartwatch. It might take a little persistence, but if you can send a text message or an email, like you have every qualification you need to get started with dictating your fiction. So remember that lie we started out with, that you're either wired for something or you're not. Dictation is not a gift. It's not a talent. It is a skill. And skills respond to practice the same way typing did when your fingers were slow and clumsy and you were pecking one key at a time when you learned how to type. With dictation, good enough is what gets you started. Better will come later. Now, while we're here, there is one more fear that I want to talk about because I hear it a lot, and that is my voice doesn't sound like my writing voice. So when I switched from typing, and when I'm talking about voice, I'm talking about author voice, like your style, your distinct writing voice that you have. And I just want to say that when I switched from typing to speaking my stories, I kept my author voice. Dictation doesn't take away from that, and with practice, it frees your author voice. So let's put the three keys side by side. Dictation is a career strategy, not a writing hack, because it protects your health, unblocks your creativity, and unlocks time you didn't know you had to spend on your fiction. The second key of messy drafts, that's not the price of dictation. They are the point of drafting. And you want to give yourself permission to be messy because that is what finishes books. And that tech barrier you're bracing for mostly doesn't exist anymore because the tools are already in your pocket. My mama always says, take the step that is right in front of you. So here is your one small step for this week. 1 5-minute experiment. Open the Notes app on your phone, tap the microphone on your keyboard, and just speak. Not your novel. We don't want any pressure on your current work in progress. There's no word count goal. Just describe the room that you're in, or talk through what your character had for breakfast, or just narrate your morning. This is an experience goal, not a production goal. You're simply letting your brain feel what it's like to watch your spoken words become text. And that is the first shovel of sand. I would love to hear how this experiment goes for you, like truly. Come over to my Substack on this episode post. It's at fictioncourses.substack.com. Drop me a comment and tell me what happened when you tried this experiment. And for an extra head start, you can also go download my free dictation quick start guide. It's at fictioncourses.com/dictation guide. And I'll wrap up with saying this. I have a whole summer of dictation help coming your way. So stay close to the podcast. Make sure you're on my email list because you do not want to miss what's ahead. That's all for this episode, my friend. I'll see you in the next one of the Confident Fiction Author podcast. Take care.